My boss's fiancée demanded he fire all female personal assistant.
My name was on the list.
As compensation, he offered me a blind date with his brother. He's richer than me, great in bed, Chris said with a wink. Just one catch, he has a kid. You don't mind, do you? I didn't mind. After all, that child was mine. Adrian Blackwood, and I had a history.
Chris didn't know.
If he did, he wouldn't be carelessly dangling this in front of me after working me like a dog for 3 years. I was 22 when I met Adrian. Fresh out of college, clumsy and naive. I mistook him, the heir to a corporate empire doing a field inspection, for another down-on-his-luck applicant who just bombed a job interview. He looked the part. His bespoke suit was rumpled and dusty. He was sitting on a curb, eating from a sad-looking takeout container, with a thick stack of documents beside him. He looked completely defeated. I'd just been rejected for a job myself, and was feeling emotional. I bought 2 hefty roast beef sandwiches, extra meat, and gave one to him.
Here, I said.
Yours is all lettuce and dry meat. You need something that'll stick to your ribs. I sat a few feet away, pitying him and, honestly, myself. I imagined how miserable life might become if I didn't find a job soon. Would I end up like him, sitting on a corner, depending on strangers for lunch? I was so lost in self-pity that I missed the series of expressions crossing Adrian's face: shock, disbelief, and finally, amusement. Over that meal, we exchanged a few stories. And our names. It was the beginning of a beautiful mistake. I assumed his background was as ordinary as mine. Adrian, for his own reasons, was happy to play the role of a regular guy. I started running into him everywhere. Each time felt like coincidence. By the time he asked me out, I was convinced it was fate. The illusion shattered in a scene straight out of a cheesy romance novel. I was at a luxury department store on 5th Avenue, picking out a Christmas gift for my boss's most important client. And there was Adrian, casually spending a fortune. He stood with one hand in his pocket, posture relaxed, as he patiently advised a young woman on her selection. When she finally chose a purse, he sighed, waved a hand, and told the clerk to charge it to his account. Just the night before, he'd been in my tiny apartment, whining about his demanding boss and begging me to rub his temples. I thought about it for a long time. Should I keep up the charade? Should I confront him? Demand compensation? In the end, I chose neither. I took the option that cost me most. I called him out and asked for nothing. He wasn't surprised. He admitted who he was, plain and simple. Then he invited me to his home. His real home. The estate was worth more than I could ever earn, even if I'd started working in the Stone Age. In his study, I saw stacks of documents. He was a responsible heir, after all. That day we met, he'd been inspecting a port, a major Blackwood Corporation project that had run into trouble. He'd spent the entire sweltering day on site with engineers, revising plans, reallocating resources. The documents, beside him, were meeting minutes. No one had expected the heir to show up unannounced, so there'd been no special lunch. When the team broke, he grabbed his notes and a cheap lunchbox, sat on the curb, and waited for updates. And then I showed up. I felt like such an idiot. How had I missed the price of his watch or the perfect tailoring of his suit? He asked if we really had to break up. He said that, for him, love was about interests, and it didn't matter who it was with. I was 24. Young enough to believe love couldn't be built on deception.
It's not the same, I said.
We're not the same. I didn't cry. I didn't even say goodbye. I just got in a cab and left, as calmly as if I'd been laid off from another job. But fate had other plans. A month later, I learned the true weight of money. My period was late. I was pregnant. And my company had just gone through a massive wave of layoffs. Pregnant women were among the first to go. The boss made it clear, pay them what we owe, then send them home to raise their kids. He even threatened to stop hiring women altogether. Before I started showing, I went to my boss, swore loyalty, and promised the pregnancy wouldn't affect my performance. Then I took 3 days off for an abortion. He was so pleased he held me up as a model employee. I looked in the mirror and saw a workhorse, not a person. My colleagues whispered behind my back. I said nothing. I made the appointment. But on the way to the clinic, my taxi was intercepted by a black car. Adrian's security. Adrian was overseas. He took the first flight back, a 6-hour journey.
He wanted me to keep the child.
The terms he offered were incredibly generous. I accepted. To avoid forming an attachment, I didn't even look at her when she was born. Adrian took her away and named her Chloe, a name that meant blooming. I figured Adrian must love her. That meant I didn't need to worry. I left the city and moved south. But I couldn't escape the Blackwoods after all. Adrian's younger brother, Chris, ran the company's southern branch. I had been blasting my resume everywhere. I didn't even remember applying for a secretary position under him. The interview process was a blur. One moment I was applying, the next, I was somehow Chris Blackwood's executive secretary. The job involved managing his schedule, occasionally making coffee, and greeting VIP clients when his lead secretary was out. A mixed bag of tasks, but nothing overwhelming, and the pay was excellent. With the money Adrian had given me, I'd already bought an apartment. This job was supposed to be my path to a quiet, stable life. Then Chris's fiancée shattered that dream. Clara? Clara? Chris tapped his desk. It doesn't take this long to think about it. Are you hesitating? You think you're too good for him. He was smiling, but his tone was sharp. I finished organizing his schedule and pushed the planner toward him. You have a meeting from 11 to 11:30. Lunch at noon with Mr. Lee Jr. His family just had a baby, so I've prepared a gift for you to take. Golf from 2 to 4, but Mr. Kane invited you to go riding at the same time, so you'll need to reschedule one. At 5, you're giving clients a tour of the R&D center and reviewing the contract. Dinner is at the Manor. I already placed the order, mostly Cantonese dishes. It's 10:43 now. Mr. Lee mentioned some executives want to brief you beforehand, so you can see them now.
I paused.
As for the blind date with your brother, I think I'll pass. Chris leaned back in his chair, spinning it lazily with the tip of his shoe. He studied me for a moment, a thoughtful look on his face. He said, a smirk creeping onto his lips. Clara, you look like you're hiding something from me. Your brother and I know each other, I said. To say we dated felt too strong. Our families didn't know. Our friends didn't know. It wasn't a real relationship. Oh, you know each other? He nodded, then stopped spinning abruptly. He narrowed his eyes, his voice sharpening with certainty. No, that's not it. You were with my brother, weren't you? Even after years of exposure to the casual cruelty of the wealthy, that phrase, you were with him, still stung. Yes, I admitted. He shot up from his chair, grinning wide, and ushered me to the sofa like we were old friends. He poured me a cup of tea with dramatic flair. So, tell me, do you know who his daughter's mother is? All of us, his friends, we've been trying to get it out of him for years. But he won't crack. He leaned in like we were sharing secrets. The guy hates kids. He must have really, really liked the woman to keep the child. You were with him, spill the tea. Who was his favorite? Was it the girl he went shopping with? Or just one of many? I pressed my lips together. I don't know who his favorite was, but it definitely wasn't me.
Chris laughed. Wow, you sound bitter.
I thought my brother was supposed to be generous. Maybe with other people. When I was with him, I lived in a rental. Chris's expression froze. He stared at me like I'd just told him the earth was flat. You lived where? He repeated. A rental? He let you live in a rental? I smiled faintly. Well, it was my rental. We didn't live together. He looked personally offended. Holy crap. He didn't even cover your rent? That's just pathetic. He began pacing, muttering to himself and glancing over at me. I never would have guessed, Clara. A woman like you, he should have bought you a condo at least. Why didn't you just leave him? He was appraising me now, putting a price tag on me. The old me would have snapped. But now, I adjusted my expression and played along. I was young and foolish back then, I said, with a light tone. So, on that note, how about a little extra on my severance pay? A knock came at the door. An assistant poked his head in. Mr. Blackwood, the meeting is about to start. Chris nodded and straightened his tie. I moved to hold the door open for him. He grabbed a folder and walked past me. You're not on the layoff list anymore. Get back to work.
Damn.
I was hoping to squeeze a little more out of the severance package. Now I'd have to resign on my own. Chris's fiancée had become notorious around the office. Word was she was the granddaughter of some New York elite with immense wealth and a temper to match. The moment they got engaged, she demanded Chris fire all his close female subordinates. Chris had 2 lead secretaries, a man and a woman. The female one was too valuable to lose, so he saved her. But the rest of us, executive secretaries and personal assistants, weren't so lucky. Even if I wasn't fired, staying would be unbearable. It was only a matter of time before the new Mrs. Blackwood decided I was a threat. Back at my desk, I found a few colleagues from other departments in the secretarial pool getting documents stamped. When they saw me, pity filled their eyes. Clara, When are you leaving? We should get dinner before you go. I slumped into my chair. Earliest would be next month. I have to go through the formal process. Process? If you're getting fired, can't you just leave?
I'm resigning, I said.
Mr. Blackwood isn't firing me. Anyone have a resignation letter template I can borrow? Thank you for the opportunity. Due to personal reasons, I have decided to resign. I hit send on the email, pushed my keyboard away, and took a deep breath. Chris's words echoed in my mind. He must have really liked the woman to keep her child. I never knew what Adrian truly felt for me. During my time in New York, I lived in a building filled with dreamers and stragglers, people chasing something. It was chaotic, crowded, unpredictable. It was there that I was followed for the first time. And it was there someone tried to break into my apartment. I'd been a light sleeper. That night, the vibration of my phone woke me. It was a security alert. Someone was lingering outside my door. The man on the camera was masked, wearing a hat and gloves. His face was obscured, his figure swallowed in bulky work clothes. He picked the lock swiftly, professionally. He even glanced back to whisper and laugh with a partner just out of frame. I stood frozen in my living room, breath caught in my throat. Then instinct kicked in. I ran to the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and hid in the bedroom, eyes fixed on the monitor as I shakily dialed 911. Then I called Adrian. His voice was husky with sleep. What's wrong? Someone's picking my lock, I whispered. There was a pause on the other end, followed by the rustle of clothes. Adrian sounded instantly alert. Where are you? How many? Are they armed? He asked, calm and steady. I only see 2. I didn't see a knife, but I don't know. Don't cry, he soothed. Lock yourself in your room. Suddenly, the camera feed went black. Then the front door creaked open. Footsteps echoed in the living room, growing louder. The intruder began pushing on my bedroom door. I gripped the knife, wondering if I should charge out and strike first. My legs trembled with adrenaline. The knife felt like it might slip from my sweaty palm. Then, a violent noise exploded outside my door. Muffled thuds. Curses tangled with cries of pain. Shattering glass and the crash of overturned furniture. Adrian, I'm here. His voice was strained and breathless. Don't come out yet. It'll be over in a second. I wiped the sweat from my brow and sank onto the edge of the bed, my body limp with relief. Finally, a knock. I pushed aside the heavy furniture I'd used to barricade the door. The living room looked like a war zone. The 2 burglars lay on the floor, barely conscious. One of Adrian's men was dragging them out by the ankles like sacks of potatoes. Adrian wiped blood from his knuckles and pulled me into his arms. His coat was cold from the night air, but the scent of tobacco on his clothes felt oddly comforting against his warmth. He held me tight, burying his face in my hair and pressing a kiss to the top of my head. One of his men cleared his throat. Adrian, what do you want us to do with them? Check their records. Make sure they get put away for a long time, Adrian said, his voice flat as he stroked the back of my head. I murmured into his shoulder, my voice muffled. Are they your friends? Coming all the way out here this late. I should treat them to dinner sometime. It's fine, he said. Go get some rest. I'm staying with you tonight. When the police arrived, Adrian lit a cigarette and gently coaxed me back into the bedroom. Their low conversation didn't last long. Soon, he climbed into bed and wrapped his arms around me from behind. I was still trembling. You're safe now, he whispered. It won't happen again. I turned and kissed him. Desperate. Frantic. Adrian froze. He was usually so direct in bed, all business as he unbuckled his belt and pressed me down. But that night, he was different. Gentle. He took my hands, wrapped them around his neck, and rolled on top of me, returning my kiss with deep, slow passion. The autumn wind howled outside, but his body was a furnace. His hand cupped my cheek, and, just for a moment, I felt truly loved. But chewing on old memories too long turns them to tasteless pulp. When I sat across from him in his mansion, discussing the terms of our separation, I couldn't fool myself with that sliver of sweetness anymore. He loved me the way someone loves a beautiful pet. He wouldn't touch it himself, but couldn't bear the thought of anyone else having it. That was all. The workday was over. It was Friday. I'd sent my resignation email. The earliest I'd hear back was Monday. I began clearing my desk, slowly erasing any trace of myself. I didn't expect the call from Chris on Sunday night. Judging by the background noise, he'd just gotten off a plane. Clara, your resignation letter. What are the personal reasons? Mr. Blackwood, I'm 29. It's time for me to settle down.
A pause.
This isn't because you're afraid I'll try to set you up with my brother again, is it? Don't overthink it. No, I said. I met someone on a dating app. I was planning to leave around this time anyway. What's his background? No background to speak of. He's an associate professor. I see.
All right.
Work hard for the next 30 days, and I'll give you a nice bonus. Consider it a wedding gift. Thank you, Mr. Blackwood.
One more thing, he added.
Pick out a few gifts for a little girl. You're coming back to New York with me next Friday. A little girl. I felt a pang in my chest. Of course, Mr. Blackwood. It was my first time inside the Blackwood estate. The main hall buzzed with laughter and conversation. Servants moved gracefully, refilling teacups and offering snacks. I followed behind Chris, carrying the gift boxes. Every eye in the room shifted from him to me. Chris's fiancée, Tiffany, shot daggers at me. And who is this? She asked, her smile brittle and strained. Chris dropped onto the sofa beside his grandmother. Just my secretary, he said casually. She picked out some gifts for Chloe. She's just here to drop them off. The tension eased. I gave a polite nod and handed the boxes to a maid. Well, Mr. Blackwood, I'll be on my way. He waved me off. I was about to turn when my eyes met a little girl's on the staircase. She looked about 5 or 6, wearing a burgundy plaid cape dress as she hopped down the stairs. The man behind her kept close, one hand gently pinching the collar of her dress between 2 fingers to steady her. He wasn't wearing a jacket, just a crisp shirt with sleeves rolled up to reveal strong, lean forearms. My heart lurched. The girl stared at me, then suddenly bounded down the rest of the stairs and ran to the living room. The old matriarch opened her arms. My sweet Chloe, come to Grandma. I couldn't tear my eyes away from her. Chloe Blackwood. That was Chloe. I snapped my gaze away, forced my expression back to neutral, and started to leave. But a small pair of arms wrapped tightly around my leg. A child's hands are surprisingly warm. She felt like a soft, heavy weight clinging to me. She looked up and with absolute certainty called out, "Mommy." The room fell dead silent. My eyes shot up, instinctively searching for the man by the stairs. Adrian was thinner. The youthful fullness in his face had faded, leaving sharper features defined by clean, handsome bone structure. He held my gaze for a long moment before looking down. A faint smile touched his lips as he walked toward us. He knelt, gently trying to pry the girl's hands from my leg, careful not to use too much force. As soon as he pulled her away, Chloe clung to me again like a little octopus. "Chloe," Adrian said, his tone hardening slightly. "Be good. Don't bother the lady." Chloe looked stunned. Then she called out again, "Mommy." On the sofa, Chris's eyes nearly popped out of his head. Adrian's face went cold. Without another word, he scooped her up. "My apologies," he said, holding the girl with one arm.
His voice was calm.
"She's never known her mother. She gets confused easily." I finally found my voice. "It's fine. I understand." "Jesus, you scared the hell out of me." Chris exhaled, clutching his chest. "Bro, your kid is terrifying." For a second, I thought I'd been ordering my sister-in-law around for 3 years. A few scattered chuckles broke the tension. Adrian's eyes landed on the gift boxes I'd brought. "Miss Chin," he said, stopping me. "The child seems to like you. Would you mind bringing the gifts and keeping her company for a little while?" I looked at Chris. He just waved a hand. "Go on." I sighed inwardly, picked up the boxes, and followed Adrian. The hallway was quiet. Sunlight, sliced into rectangles by the window panes, fell across the carpet. Dust motes danced in the light like diamonds. Chloe, draped over Adrian's shoulder, watched me without moving. Chloe, draped over Adrian's shoulder, watched me without moving. "Planning to resign?" Adrian asked. "Yes. There's no severance if you quit voluntarily." "I know. You've been in the corporate world for years. Still letting pride get in the way of money."
"No,
it's not that." He stopped and turned to face me. The forearm supporting the child was taut and defined. "If you're not avoiding the Blackwood family, then why quit? The job isn't busy, but it keeps me on call 24/7. I want to devote more energy to building a family." His knuckles whitened around Chloe.
"Oh."
"Building a family." He repeated the words, tone unreadable, then kept walking. "Dating anyone?" "Yes." "Bring him to me. I'll vet him." "That won't be necessary." I said with a small smile. He's just an ordinary person. He wouldn't catch your eye. An ordinary person can catch your eye? When we were together, you never mentioned you were the heir to Blackwood Corporation. Silence. After a few turns, he knelt and set Chloe down, gesturing toward an indoor playroom. Daddy has things to discuss. Go play for a bit. Chloe picked up the gift box and walked away, glancing back every few steps. The hallway was quiet. The early autumn air was cool, the sunlight perfect. Adrian leaned against a window and pulled out a cigarette. He fumbled in his pockets. A flicker of irritation crossed his brow. I took out a lighter, cupped the blue flame, and lit it for him. He stared through the haze of smoke, momentarily stunned. When did you start smoking?
I don't, I said.
Mr. Chris always loses his lighter, so I carry one. I stepped back, maintaining careful distance. Clara, he said suddenly, I've always wondered why you left so decisively. Was it just because I lied about my family? There were many reasons. Seeing him with another girl at the mall was just the spark. What truly broke me was the slow realization that he had never really cared. For our second anniversary, I spent $500 on a tie. I'd agonized over it. A suit was out of my league, a watch would look cheap, and belts were too generic. He wore suits often. A good tie seemed perfect. He said he loved it. That night, he used it to tie my wrists tight, but not painful. I never saw him wear it again. The tie stayed in its box on a liquor shelf. He went back to wearing his own. I told myself he just didn't have a good occasion for it. But once I learned who he really was, it made sense. A tie from me wouldn't match his world. Still, he could have pretended to care. Just once. And then there was the break-in. If our roles were reversed, I would have helped. I'd have offered money, moved him somewhere safer. Even $100 a month would have meant something. But he didn't. He just said, don't worry. It won't happen again. Like that was enough. He wasn't poor. He could have moved mountains, bought someone else a $50,000 bag. But he wouldn't spend a dime on me. What was I supposed to think? I could only conclude that, after 2 years, I had earned nothing, not even a flicker of affection. Adrian crushed the cigarette under his heel. His expression grew colder with every word. I didn't wear the expensive tie, and I didn't give you money to move, so this is really about feeling shortchanged. You think you invested in me and got nothing. You seem to hate when I talk about money, I observed.
Who wouldn't?
I'm poor, Adrian, I said quietly. For me, money is sincerity. I have plenty of money. Does that mean whoever I spend it on, I love?
No.
But not spending it means you don't think she's worth it. The sneer froze on his lips. His throat worked as he stared at me. I never thought that. It's fine, I said, shaking my head. It doesn't matter anymore. I gave him a nod and turned to go. He took a few quick strides and grabbed my wrist, gripped tight, painful. His breathing was heavy. He opened his mouth, tried to speak, but no words came. Stay, he finally said, strained. I'll give you whatever you want. Right now, all I want is a suitable partner. Chloe stood in the playroom doorway, hugging a doll, watching us. I gently pulled free. Don't let the child see this. His hand hung in the air for a moment. Veins stood out as his fingers curled into a fist. He watched me walk away. Chloe tugged on his pant leg.
Daddy.
Is that mommy? Yes. Other kids' mommies hug them. Why does a mommy? Why is she like that with me? Adrian wrapped his arm around her and smoothed her braids. Because mommy has her own plans. From now on, when people are around, call her Aunt Clara. Understand? Okay. There were 2 weeks left before my handover was complete. Chris stopped assigning me tasks. The sudden idleness, after being so busy for so long, was unsettling. I started sending out my resume again, while keeping in touch with the man from the dating app. Evan was the most promising candidate so far. He was a physics professor at a good university. His patience had been thoroughly tested and honed by difficult students. He was a few years older than me and a widower. Because he wasn't looking for his first marriage, he didn't mind that I'd had a child before.
We had a dinner date tonight.
I spent the afternoon at my desk, applying for jobs and chatting with recruiters online. When the clock struck 6, I grabbed my bag and left. Outside the building, I saw Evan standing under a tree, holding a bouquet of flowers. He spotted me but didn't move. I wrapped my coat tighter around myself. Why are you standing so far away? I was afraid you wouldn't want your colleagues to see, he said, offering the flowers. The restaurant isn't far. Want to take a walk? The view by the river is nice. He was right. It was nice. Water birds took flight, circling above the banks. The cool air was refreshing. But Evan kept glancing over his shoulder, frowning. "What's wrong?" I asked. "I feel like someone's watching us," he said, then added lightly, "Maybe it's someone trying to get your number." Everything behind us looked normal. "I don't see anyone," I reassured him. "I'm very sensitive to being followed. Don't worry, I'm sure it's nothing." He nodded. "We're almost there. Let's cross the street." He put a protective arm around my waist as he told me a funny story about one of his students. It was rush hour, and cars zipped past. Suddenly, he stumbled, letting out a grunt of pain. The impact sent me staggering a few steps. An electric scooter lay sprawled on the ground in front of us. A couple of wiry young men scrambled up, dusted themselves off, picked up the scooter, and sped away without a word. Evan clutched his arm, slightly bent over. The scooter had hit him. I snapped out of my shock and helped him to a bench on the sidewalk. "Don't move. We don't know if you've broken anything. We need to go to the hospital." Every taxi was occupied. Luckily, a rideshare was nearby. His face was pale, sweat beading on his forehead. "Clara," he said, his voice strained, "would you mind holding my hand?" I called the police, then knelt to wipe the sweat from his brow. He leaned his head against my shoulder, taking deep breaths. We didn't have to wait long at the hospital. An X-ray showed a dislocated left elbow. After an emergency reduction, he needed a cast for a few weeks. I felt terrible. Evan, on the other hand, tried to laugh it off. "Clara, I'm not dead. But I don't think I can take you home tonight." "Let me take you home," I said. "I'll make dinner." He hesitated for a moment before nodding. Evan lived in faculty housing. The apartment was spacious and tidy. He sat in the living room watching me cook, looking more like a guest than the host. We had a simple dinner. He absolutely refused to let me wash the dishes. We talked late into the night before he finally let me leave. It was easy to be with someone like him. He had a respectable social status and a stable job. As a public employee, he wouldn't dare cause a scene even if we had marital problems. I walked toward the parking lot, mentally weighing the pros and cons. I didn't notice the black car parked in the shadows, or the person sitting inside. The next day was business as usual. My life had gotten busier. With his arm in a cast, Evan had to rely on food delivery. I started bringing him a home-cooked meal every day to check on his recovery. 6 days left until my last day. I heard from colleagues that someone from the New York head office was coming to inspect the branch for 3 days. Adrian was coming too. I really had been pushed to the fringes. I was the last to know. I was going over the final handover tasks with the new secretary, my mind elsewhere. My phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. "Come to the VIP lounge on the 43rd floor. Or I can come find you. Adrian." The new secretary tentatively called my name. "Clara, if you're busy, I can come back later?" "Sorry, I just have to take care of something. You can look over these for now." I finished organizing my past work records and handed them all to her. The 43rd floor lounge. He was here. I wondered if Chloe was with him. I shook my head, trying to banish the strange pang of longing. We'd barely even met. The elevator chimed, and the doors opened. The floor was empty. I walked to the lounge and knocked hesitantly. The door opened a crack immediately. The room was dark. I stepped inside, fumbling for the light switch. Suddenly, an arm snaked around my waist, pulling me into a hard embrace and pinning me against the door. My face pressed against the cool wood. The person behind me was breathing hot and erratically, the scent of alcohol thick in the air. He spun me around, struggling to keep his balance. I braced my arms against his chest, keeping a fist's worth of space between us. That seemed to provoke him. He seized my wrists and pinned them above my head. My shirt pulled taut, coming untucked from my skirt. His hand slipped underneath, finding my bare waist with ease. His palm was scorching hot. His kisses were messy, desperate. I struggled for air, and he finally let me go, only to capture my lips again between gasping breaths. In the darkness, we were both panting. His voice was hoarse. "Who have you been seeing these past few days?" That question, he knew I'd been going to Evan's place. The accident immediately flashed through my mind. "You've been following me?" My thoughts started to clear through the oxygen-deprived haze. "Did you have something to do with Evan getting hurt?" The hand on my waist tightened abruptly. He froze, swallowing hard. "No," he said thickly. "You suspect me?" I fell silent. It was a slip of the tongue. I knew he wasn't that kind of person. You suspect me? For him. His voice was incredulous. He gets a little scratch and you're that worried about him? Holding his hand, wiping his sweat, letting him lean on you, visiting him for 8 days straight. Clara, you used to only take care of me like that. He took several ragged breaths, his voice cracking. And you suspect me. Have I ever done anything like that? If I wanted to get my hands dirty, you wouldn't have a single man near you. We were too close. When a tear fell onto my cheek, it was still warm from his eye. Adrian could hold his liquor, but it always went to his head. A little too much, and he became an irrational, clinging mess. I pushed against his shoulders, trying to calm my racing heart, my voice trembling uncontrollably. You know that was in the past. I enunciated each word carefully. He's the person I'm considering marrying now. Is there a problem with me taking care of him? I heard the joints in his hand crack. He was gritting his teeth, his breathing ragged. The alcohol had short-circuited his brain. He just kept repeating, brokenly, "You used to only be good to me." My sanity returned. I shoved him away and found the switch. I flipped it. One by one, the lights came on, flooding the suite. He stumbled back a few steps and collapsed onto the sofa. His shirt was unbuttoned haphazardly. The leather sleeve garters cut into his arms. His long legs bent carelessly, his powerful frame on full display. "I wasn't only good to you," I said, looking down at him. In contrast to his disheveled state, I felt strangely powerful. "I'm good to my partner. Do you understand? Adrian, we're not together anymore." He stared at me in silence. I looked away. "You should get some rest. And don't drink so much in the future. I'm leaving." I turned to open the door. The next second, he called my name, voice choked and hoarse. "Clara, happy birthday." My heart cracked open. I stood frozen, unable to move. Countless images flooded my mind, none of them clear, but all painfully familiar. A 2-year relationship that ended in a clean break. I would have preferred if we drifted apart after the passion faded. At least then it wouldn't be this addiction that tortured me on lonely nights. And there was a child. I hadn't wanted to see him during the pregnancy, and he had been considerate enough to stay away. But I knew he'd been there. At first, his massage skills were terrible. My swollen legs felt even worse after he was done with them. But as the months passed, his technique improved. When I was 7 months pregnant, he came to rub stretch mark oil on my belly. I was awake. I knew the baby had kicked him. Adrian had just sat there on the edge of the bed for a long time, his eyes red, looking completely lost. I cursed myself for being so soft. It was just a happy birthday. Just a simple phrase. Why was I thinking about all this? I slowly sank to the floor, covering my face with my hands. Footsteps approached. He knelt behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. "Adrian," I said, "just this once." I helped him to the bedroom and unbuttoned his shirt, one button at a time. His eyes were bloodshot, weary, and full of guilt. "Do you want to?" he asked, his voice still hoarse. He placed his hand over mine, stopping me. "I can't right now. I'm not hard." I clenched and unclenched my fists, taking a deep breath. "I'm giving you a sponge bath. If you want to lie here covered in alcoholic sweat, be my guest." "Oh." He sounded disappointed but obediently retracted his hand and lay back, letting me clean him. "Clara." "What?" "The things you were worried about. I can explain." I remembered, a few days before we broke up, I went shopping with the daughter of a family friend. You must have seen us. Our families were trying to set us up, but we knew each other too well. We went home and told them it was a no-go. And the break-in, you were angry. I didn't seem to care. I thought about getting you a new place, but I couldn't find one that wouldn't raise suspicion. I didn't want you to know about my family, so I had 2 of my men move into the apartments above and below you. It wasn't that I didn't care. As for the tie, I didn't understand how hard you worked for your money. I'm sorry. I didn't answer. I took his right arm and pressed on a large bruise. "How did you get this?" He closed his eyes. I couldn't tell if he was avoiding the question or had fallen asleep. I sat there for a long time. Then I smoothed my hair, straightened my dress, and went downstairs. The secretarial office was quiet and busy. A colleague waved. "Clara, Mr. Blackwood was looking for you. He said to go to his office when you got back." Did he say what it was about? No idea. Okay, thanks. I grabbed my makeup bag and slipped into the restroom. After making sure my face showed no signs of what had just happened, I headed to Chris's office. I could already hear someone trying to soothe the child. I knocked on the half-open door. Chris looked up, exasperated, and let out a huge sigh of relief. You're finally here. Quick, this kid is a handful. Chloe ran over and hugged my leg. I tensed up, a chill running through me. Chris straightened his clothes.
See?
You have the magic touch. Mr. Blackwood, I said stiffly, I have no experience with children. Don't worry. Her homework will be here any minute. She's 4 and she has homework? Chris stared at me, then said, just read her a story for now. A story? Seriously? Didn't kids listen to fairy tales anymore? Why was this picture book full of geographical jargon? I read for 15 minutes, sweat dripping down my back. Chloe fidgeted on my lap. Finally, the nanny arrived and lured her away with the promise of homework. I was exhausted. Well, Mr. Blackwood, I'll be going then. Wait, Chris said, watching the nanny and Chloe disappear down the hall. He closed the door, hesitating. Don't call me Mr. Blackwood anymore, he said finally. You're Chloe's mother, aren't you? I just looked at him. Even if you don't say anything, I've figured out, he said, rubbing his temples. God, I'm an idiot. How did I not see it? The mole on her neck is in the exact same spot as yours. It would be a problem if you were paying that much attention to your female employees' necks, Mr. Blackwood. Chris pulled out a cigar and patted his pockets. I instinctively took out my lighter and lit it for him. He jumped up. No, I've got it. He went to the window and opened it halfway. My brother's made his move. What are you going to do? I'll just see how things go.
TSK.
After you left that day, he made me sit in the garden with him all night, getting eaten alive by mosquitoes while he talked about how good you were to him. He said he didn't want you to know he was rich because he was afraid it would change you. I told him, are you kidding me? If Clara was after money, she would have left you ages ago. All you've got is a pretty face. I told him that these days, it costs millions to keep an influencer on the side, and I've never seen anyone so cheap with a good person. I told him he deserved to be dumped. He punched me for that. But I can guarantee you, he never had anyone else. Ever since the kid showed up, the family stopped trying to set him up. He spends all his time with her. He doesn't have time for fooling around. I changed the subject. The bruise on his arm. Do you know how he got it? Chris frowned.
Oh, that.
He sounded casual. He spent a few days delivering food. He had 3 cars tailing him for security, but he still got into a little accident. I blinked. Delivering food? Don't people in your circle laugh at him? Who would dare? Chris sneered.
You know what he's like.
He always tests the waters himself before making a move. As soon as he started delivering food, CEOs got spooked. They started inviting him to dinner, trying to figure out if our family was entering the delivery market. And honestly,
he's probably right.
It's a huge market. I nodded, but didn't say anything. He stubbed out his cigar and asked, are you still planning to quit? Jobs out there aren't necessarily easier. It's fine. Thanks to you, my social media career is taking off. He stood straighter. What do you mean? I've been making videos. A day in the life of a corporate executive's lackey. I've gained a lot of followers spilling company gossip. Clara, even if you are my sister-in-law, I will still curse you out. Be my guest. You can't fire me anymore anyway. I checked my watch. It's quitting time. You have a good evening, Mr. Blackwood. Many things were coming to an end. My desk was completely bare, and my relationship with Adrian needed a final, decisive resolution. I went home and made dinner. As usual, I packed a portion and took it to Evans. He was scheduled to get his cast off in 3 days. You always look so miserable when you come here. It's not your fault, you know, he said, opening the thermos and pouring me a cup of tea. I tried to find the right words. We'd been seeing each other for a while. We should have been talking about marriage. Rejecting him now felt like I'd wasted his time. Evans spoke first. I know, he said. Don't worry about it. We're not a good match. I rubbed my forehead. I'm sorry. He smiled. Your ex came to see me? I looked up sharply. Don't worry, he said. He just told me a little about your past. If it weren't for you, I never would have met Mr. Blackwood. I made a lot of money off his stock tips. He sipped his soup, teasing. Clara, you're talented, beautiful, and financially stable. Your only flaw is that you've had a child. But then again, your ex is Adrian Blackwood. That changes things. I've been married once. I know my limits. I'm not confident I could ever replace him in your heart, especially since you have a child together. Ending this now is best for both of us. I felt a wave of relief. I was grateful he'd saved me from having to say the words. "If you ever need anything, you can call me. I'll do my best to help."
"Thank you," he said.
But Mr. Blackwood has already made a very generous offer. Evan walked me to the end of the hallway. His figure grew smaller as I walked away. I turned on some music and drove home. The head office inspection ended. My resignation was complete. The job market was grim. With my social media account as a safety net, I decided not to look for a new job for now. While the memories were fresh, I turned all my bizarre office anecdotes into content. I spent 2 months at home, filming and editing, and finally created a whole series of office life videos. Adrian started coming over often. He'd bring Chloe and bags of toys. He'd walk in without a word, play with her in a corner of my workspace, stay in the guest room for a few days, then leave just as quietly. I realized it had been 10 days since I'd last seen him.
Winter was setting in.
While cleaning, I stepped on a rubber duck. It was Chloe's. I sat on the floor, squeezing it in my hand for a long time. I couldn't help it. I called Adrian. "Been busy?" He didn't answer right away. After a few seconds of silence, he asked, "Do you want to see me?" "I'll be there tomorrow," he said before hanging up. I was sorting through my wardrobe for the season, tossing out old clothes. I set my phone aside and went back to cleaning. By the time I finished, it was almost 10. The early winter nights were getting colder, but the heating hadn't been turned on yet. That night, I kept getting hotter and hotter in my sleep. I woke with a start, realizing the warmth came from another body. I tried to shift away, but an arm tightened around me. Soft, wet kisses traced my neck. "Clara," he whispered, "Happy New Year." "Are you insane?" I murmured. "It's only November." "You haven't said it to me in 4 years." I turned my head away, trying to wriggle free from his arms. But then he pressed his hips forward in a slow, deliberate motion. Heat rushed to my face. I twisted and bit his shoulder. "I thought you were coming tomorrow." "Couldn't wait. Chloe's arriving tomorrow." He slid a hand under my back, pulling me closer, then tilted my chin up and kissed me. "Let's get back together," he panted, fingers lacing through mine. "Chloe misses you." "I need to think about it." "Then just take her to the park once," he said quickly. "She wants to play with her mom. Just once." I sighed. The new amusement park in the south of the city has more family-friendly rides. He lowered his head, burying his face in my chest, and bit open the front of my nightgown like a wild animal. That directly led to us being 2 hours late to pick Chloe up from the airport. By the time we arrived, the nanny's car had already made it into the city. Chloe's expression was stormy. She wasn't speaking. Adrian rubbed his nose and reached for her. "Sweetheart, Daddy will rebraid your hair into a pretty style. We'll go play, okay?" She turned her head away. "Don't be mad. Daddy had to persuade Mommy for a long time. That's why we were late." Still, she said nothing. Adrian upped the ante. "Mommy promised to play with you all day." I said no such thing. I cut in. Chloe burst into tears, so suddenly I flinched. Adrian scooped her into his arms, his face red as he tried to calm her. "Daddy, you can't be late anymore," she cried. Okay. "You have to promise me 3 things. Anything, sweetheart. Anything." I pressed my temples. He was out here signing emotional treaties, more binding than any government contract. After a long round of coaxing, we finally made it to the amusement park. Adrian looked absolutely wiped out. A stick of cotton candy suddenly appeared in front of my face. Chloe, her eyes still damp, held it up. "For Mommy." I knelt beside her, hesitating. Then, slowly, I reached out to pick her up. She was small but solid. Adrian rushed in to help. "You can't just lift her straight up like that." "I'm not carrying her. She's heavy. Go get me something to drink." "Sure," he whispered. "Don't let her hear you. She'll throw a fit." I shut my mouth at once. While Adrian stood in line for drinks, I took Chloe's hand and sat with her on a bench under a tree. "How did you know I was your mommy the first time you saw me?" "The first time?" "That wasn't the first time," she said, waving her hands for emphasis. "Daddy has lots of pictures. He shows me every day. And we came to see you before. Daddy said we had to be secret, so we didn't bother Mommy." I smiled. "When did you come?" "When I was little. I don't remember." "So, were you angry that Mommy wasn't around?" She swung her legs, thinking hard. "A little. But I love you." Adrian came over with a paper bag and handed me a drink. He opened his mouth to speak, but then he saw my face and froze. "What's wrong?" I grabbed his sleeve and wiped my eyes. Nothing. Let's go. There's still a lot to do. He studied me for a moment. Then he took my hand and, through the glove, pressed a soft kiss to my knuckles. Chloe was laughing at a costumed character nearby. For the first time in a long while, happiness felt so close I could almost reach out and hold it. You know, I said quietly, getting back together sounds like a pretty good idea.